Tuesday, May 25th, 2021, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at how the globalists, the people who've been running the world for a long time, are going to bring down the financial system under the cover of an outside crisis like a hack or a cyber attack. And that's the way they operate. They never blame themselves. But the other thing they do, their other strategy, is that they always tell us what they're going to do in advance. And I've learned that through the years, of course, not because I've paid attention to things as well, but also because I've been told by people who've been around a lot longer, like Pastor Lindsay Williams, who was very close to the elites in the 70s and 80s. He told us that they always tell us in advance. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the public are really distracted by many other things out there that are not really important, that are a waste of energy. Things like politics, things like Hollywood, things like sports. Yes, there's a lot of distractions for the public. There's a new distraction that I just got an email from one of my viewers that I should cover it, and I will right here, and it's about UFOs. That's another distraction. It's coming out right now, like a day ago. It says Pentagon's UFO footage and Obama's curiosity ratchet up expectations for a big reveal. Well, that's setting us up as well for another distraction, big distraction about UFOs. There is talk, of course, of an alien invasion. And Hollywood is part of this. They've been programming us with science fiction for years, of course. And that's what I think about this. It's another distraction from the real world, from the fact that it's the same people, the globalists, who are going to bring the system down, who are going to blame cyber warfare for it, or even countries like Russia or China for it. They're the ones to blame for bringing the system down. In my opinion, they've created such an unsustainable credit-based system on fiat currency. It's inflated so much that the only thing they can do is really bring it down and start from fresh. But they can't say, oh, it's our fault. They're going to blame someone else. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to buy into it. You and I, of course, know better. And so why are we talking about this today? Well, because I saw an article, and it's from April 9th, so it's a little older, but I found this website because I was watching a podcast from Robert Kennedy Jr., and he had Whitney Webb on, and she wrote, World Economic Forum, or WEF, warns of cyber attack leading to systemic collapse of the global financial system. Yeah, and Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum, I remember him talking about this last year, that a cyber attack would make the what we've been having, this engineered crisis that we've been having since the beginning of last year, look like a picnic. Why do I say engineered crisis? Well, because early last year, early on during the crisis, I said that it was going to be like this. And this is a book Lindsay Williams wrote about the oil crisis of the 1970s, the energy non-crisis. And I said, this is going to be a non-crisis. Of course, they're making it look like a crisis. They are scaring people into doing things that they usually don't. But that's how they operate, unfortunately. And this is going to be the same thing, this cyber attack that's going to bring the whole system down. And I'm not going to go through the whole article. I'm going to put it below in the description, a link to it below in the description of this video, and you can read it. I'll give you a synopsis of it, a broad summary of this article. So basically what they're saying is that, and this is with the Carnegie institute as well for international peace. And going back to the Carnegie Institute for International Peace, they were also involved in preparing the world for World War I. And you might think, what are you talking about? Well, the Carnegie Endowment, actually, is not the Institute, Endowment for International Peace. They're very close to the U.S. State Department. They're very close to the Council on Foreign Relations. They're very close to the UN. They set foreign policy for the world, for the United States. And if you watch a video of Norman Dodd being interviewed by the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin, in 1982, they talk about the Reece Committee in the 1950s and how Norman Dodd found out through the research he did for the Reece Committee, he was the head researcher, that the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace actually asked the question in its first meeting, I think it was 1909 or 1910, what would be the best way to change society in the United States? And their conclusion, of course, was that they looked at everything, but the only thing that really would do that or reach that goal fairly quickly would be a major war. And then a few years later, of course, we had World War I. The U.S. got into the war late, but it did.
And off she went to New York. She came back at the end of 2 weeks with the following in the way of on dictaphone belts. We are now at the year 1908, which was the year that the Carnegie began operations. And in that year, the trustees, meeting for the first time, raised a specific question, which they discussed throughout the balance of the year in a very learned fashion. And the question is there any means known more effective than war, assuming you wish to alter the life of an entire people? And they conclude that no more effective means than war to that end is known to humanity. So then in 1909 they raised the second question and discussed it, namely, how do we involve the United States in a war? Well, I doubt at that time if there was any subject more removed from the thinking of most of the people of this country than its involvement in a war.
And here they are again, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, working together with another one of these tax-free foundations. Always be suspicious of these tax-free foundations, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, like the Clinton Foundation, like the Rockefeller Foundation, like the Ford Foundation. Always be very suspicious of these people. They have a plan for us, and that's their plan. And what they're saying here is that this is going to lead to a melding of all the major actors, the central banks, governments, the commercial banks, the big international banks. They're all going to be put together. And yes, and I can't tell you what it's going to be like when they flush the system down. And if you read through the article, it says that it's going to be between 2021 and 2024. Well, it could be this year, it could be next year. I have a feeling they're going to accelerate this because more and more people are going to find out about this. They don't want too many people knowing about it, in my opinion, and that's what they're going to do. The digital strategy is also a big part of this. They want to put everyone into a digital world, and I think cryptocurrencies are a big part of this. Yes, the central bank digital currencies as well. So yeah, as I said, I can't tell you how things are going to play out exactly, what's going to happen. But I would say that this cyber attack, cyber hack of the financial system is going to be a great excuse to do things that even now we wouldn't expect them to do. And what could those things be? Well, it could be closing the system for a month or two. It could be the Federal Reserve, the ECB, the Bank of England actually buying up everything and exploding their balance sheets. It could be all the commercial banks everything being taken over by the central banks. I think, yes, it would be a globalist wet dream for the central banks, for the BIS, for the IMF to be in charge of everything. And that's why, yeah, I want to keep a little bit of my savings, or most of it, outside the system. What is going to happen to gold and silver? I don't know. Are they going to come after gold and silver? Maybe, but I don't think so, because very few people have gold and silver, and most people are distracted right now with cryptocurrencies. People who actually think like we do, that think that we should have a sound money system. I don't think they realize that they're being played with, in my opinion, because we're seeing now Wall Street getting involved in cryptocurrencies, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and cryptocurrencies 5, 6, 10 years ago, and I remember well, was supposed to be the anti-banking system, and now the bankers are all getting involved. So I think that's not a good thing. So, and the other thing that I was thinking was about the Basel III rules concerning unallocated gold that are supposed to go into effect for European banks at the end of June this year. And Alistair MacLeod wrote a really good piece about this. His analysis is great. And I'll put a link to that analysis below in the description. And he asked the question, either these guys are planning to really wreck the system, or they're really stupid. I think it could be the former. And reading this article here from Whitney Webb about the warnings of the World Economic Forum of cyber attacks leading to systemic collapse, and the fact that they say this is a matter of not if, but when, makes me suspicious that something could happen very soon. I could be wrong, but it's better to be prepared for it than not. And even if it doesn't happen this year or by the end of June, it will happen, believe me. I don't know how many of you have seen, there's a video of Fauci. I think it was in 2017. Trump had just become president, and he said that with all certainty there would be a big pandemic during the Trump administration. And many of you might remember Aaron Russo, who wrote made the documentary America from Freedom to Fascism. He was warned by one of his Rockefeller friends that about 18 months before 9/11 that there would be a big event. PNAC as well, the work by the neocons, the New American Century, also said before 9/11 that barring a Pearl Harbor event, yes, it would take a very long time for America to expand its power in the Middle East and globally. And what happened a few years afterwards? Well, 9/11. So I think we need to be very careful about this. We need to be aware that this is a possibility. I'm not advising people what to do. As usual, I'm just a little guy here trying to keep some of my savings protected, and I do it through physical gold and silver outside the system. Yes, I do have some mining stocks in the system. What could happen to that? Well, the worst that could happen is that they shut the markets down for a month or two, and then they reopen, and then we'll have to see where things are. As I said, this is an unprecedented kind of situation. The world monetary system, financial system has never been as leveraged as much as this. This is Weimar to the power of 10 or 20, in my opinion. And they could even use also the UFO story, put it together with the cyber attack. Who knows? These people know what they're doing. But unfortunately, a lot of people are going to buy into it. And the ultimate aim of this collapse is to bring everyone under the control of the World Bank, IMF, BIS, central banks. And you will be tracked, and they will know everything about us, unless you have a little bit outside their system. So before we look at the markets this morning, I just wanted to go over a couple of things here. One is to do with the cyber attack. If you remember well, I think it was back in February this year that the Federal Reserve's payment system, there was an outage. And I think this is part of this. They're just preparing people, getting people, people's conscience used to the fact that there will be something like that. If you remember 9/11 back in 1993, I remember well, there was an attack on the Twin Towers that failed. So they get people's head to think, yeah, this is possible. And this is what they say here. It is also a major security issue. Hackers thrive on attacking the weakest link in the chain. So yeah, they're building up this idea of hackers. And the other one to do more with gold, but also with the fragility of the financial system. This came out a couple of days ago on RT, and it says Russian government gives go-ahead for piling of national wealth fund into gold bullion. So the Russians know probably what's going on. The Russians, they're part of the whole globalist agenda as well, but for some reason they seem to care a little more about the Russian public. So this is a big sovereign wealth fund. They have about $184 billion under management. This is not Russia's gold reserves. This is something different. It says here the NWF is a part of Russia's federal budget assets. It was created to support the national pension system, and the funds can also be used to cover budget deficits in times of crisis. As of January 1st, the assets of the fund amounted to more than 13.5 trillion rubles, or nearly $184 billion, according to the Ministry of Finance. And it says, in the longer term, precious metals are much more sustainable for investments than financial market assets. So that's how the Russians think. And could they be aware of what's going on? We know Mr. Putin, I think it was in 2019, he said that the dollar was going to collapse very soon. So I wouldn't be surprised. So let's quickly look at the markets now. It's 8:40 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold at $1884.50, up just under $4. Range has been pretty narrow again. 1872 low, 1887 high. Silver is under a little bit of pressure, down 5 cents, 27.70. Range has been 27.44 to 27.84. The Dow future is up 65 points. The NASDAQ is up 83. S&P is up 12. The currencies are a little stronger this morning versus the dollar. The pound is up 0.25% at 141.93. The euro is up 0.33% at 122.56. Dollar's down slightly versus the yen at 108.65. Dollar yuan is broken through 640. So dollar very weak versus the yuan. This was a key technical level here, 640. We're at 639.73. High grade copper down 0.1% at 452, and WTI crude down about 0.5% at 65.70. And just before we wrap up, the 10-year yield is down about 2 basis points, just below 160 at 159. So I'm sure there's a lot of reverse repo activity there, and there's a lot of yield curve control right now. The powers that be trying to keep people in the paper markets maybe before they demolish everything. After all, we've heard that insiders have gotten rid of about $24 billion worth of their stocks this year. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.